Welcome back. This is Lalita, your host, and we are at episode 8. So far, we have discussed 3 plant growth systems on the ISS. ISS is the International Space Station, where they're attempting to grow plants for fresh food in microgravity. And they're also trying to integrate that into a closed loop system. These are all important because in space we are far away from Earth and the astronauts have to rely on resupply missions to replenish their resources. Growing food on the ISS means they have some way of getting fresh food. It's not enough, obviously. It is also to understand how we can grow food in microgravity. And we have not even come to mushrooms, but it's important to first understand how plants are being grown, how we are hoping to grow plants and food. And that's why the experiments conducted on ISS is important. So before we go further into this episode, and we will do a deep dive right after I finish speaking, the material, I've put it up on my website, jelliclesfarm.com. And if you look under Mushrooms on Mars, all the material for this would be there. But we first have to understand what is the ISS. We have to understand the kind of experiments that is going on in ISS. Okay, it's not just about growing food. So there are multiple experiments that benefit Earth that is being conducted on the ISS. It's not just about space habitats or space colonies or living in a different planet or lunar colonies and how we can survive there. Well, maybe at some point, but a lot of these experiments actually benefit Earth. For example, there were many experiments in the area of medical research. So a lot of experiments about muscular dystrophy and how to improve drug design, because these medicines, how we create these medicines, which is like protein crystal growth, I have no idea what that means, but all that acts differently in microgravity. The astronauts age differently. they experience different version of themselves physically in space than what they did on Earth. So we are able to study how the human body is trying to adapt to different conditions, and we take everything on Earth for granted, right? So medical research, a lot of stuff has happened on the ISS. Water purification systems, because water, remember we spoke about the closed loop systems? So one of that was about air exchange and water purification, reusing water, okay? Because you can't keep taking up gallons of water. So the technology developed for recycling water on the ISS, it's been used for water purification systems on Earth, especially in developing countries. So when somebody asks you, oh, why are we doing space research? What is the point of it? You can say this. Because a lot of stuff that is done for space research is actually benefiting humanity. It's already benefiting humanity. And we should do more because the ability to sustain this planet is because of constant research, innovation, technology. Because even in my lifetime, I have seen how things have changed. In the past 100 years, how our parents and grandparents lived is so much different from how we live. So definitely research plays a big part. Every country has its own space agency and space research, but ISS was, it's actually a joint effort between 5 different space agencies from 5 different countries. The two main players are USA and Russia, and I think there are about 15 participating countries. Anyway, I'll come to that. Then disaster response. So the Earth observation instruments on the ISS can track natural disasters. So that'll help us to figure out quick response systems. Material science, this is big. I believe our future, especially when it comes to quantum computing or all the other good stuff, the science fiction stuff, it's going to be based on innovations and technologies in material science. Material science research, experiments with metal alloys in microgravity, that's a big deal, especially in aerospace and automotive industries, autos. So, and then of course agriculture. I mean, it is big. We don't farm like how our grandparents farmed. Whether that is helping us, whether that is helping the earth, that is a different topic, okay? Because we are now farming with chemicals, chemistry. We're using chemistry to grow food. Our grandparents used biology to grow food. All they needed was sunlight, water, earth, and then a lot of sweat labor. And then with tractors and mechanization came physics. Now we are using chemistry, like pesticide, herbicide, all that stuff. Next, we'll be using AI, robotics. The kind of technology shift would be completely different. And this is the area that I focus on, because as a farmer, I'm more interested in how all these new technology and innovations and research is going to help farmers. That's what I'm interested in. So anyway, there's a whole lot of stuff, like cancer research, a lot of medical science, eye health, then remote medical care, environmental monitoring, vaccine development, robotics, automation, all that. But what is the ISS? I know we're straying a bit, but this is important because the deep dive is going to cover the topic of, I haven't even come to what this episode is about. The ISS is basically a football-sized space lab. It's a platform, right? So it is around, I think, 200 or 250 miles above Earth. And it has been continuously occupied since 2000. So it was a joint effort between NASA, ESA, which is European Space Agency, then Roscosmos, which is a Russian space agency, and then the Japanese Space Agency, which I think is JAXA, and CSA, which is Canadian Space Agency. So participation is from almost 15 countries. It's a unique space environment research center. They conduct experiments in biology and physics and astronomy and stuff that we can't do here on Earth. So they've just taken it up to space. So these studies are going to help us understand how we live here and also help us understand how we can live in space. How can we work in space? The future might not be that we will move to a different planet or we will quit Earth. Maybe we will move all our industries to some other base. It could be another planet, it could be an asteroid, we could be mining asteroids instead of mining Earth. We could have factories like on a lunar base, or we could have another space station, like the ISS, and we can move our manufacturing there. We can move our research there. So it is the possibilities are endless. We haven't even scratched the surface of it. So, but ISS is the one that is operational right now. And it's a collaboration between 5 different space agencies. So what we are interested in is plants and closed loop systems and how they grow in microgravity. So let's come to the subject of this episode, which is LADA Greenhouse. So the LADA Greenhouse is actually a Russian contribution. Okay, so they are. So we had the Veggie, we had the APH, and the BPS from NASA. So it has been on the ISS for a while. They've grown other stuff. The LADA, I think, I like to call it LADA. I don't know if that's a correct pronunciation. And I read somewhere that it's the name of a Slavic goddess, the goddess of fertility and plants. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but that sounds nice. So LADA is a Russian developed plant growth system. It studies plant growth in microgravity. You see the theme here. That's what everybody's trying to do, whether it's Veggie or APH. So it is a small greenhouse. It has its own lighting system. It has a control unit, and it has a leaf area meter. Okay, it's much smaller. It's very compact compared to some other space plant growth systems. The way the ISS is that there's a Russian sector and there's an American sector. Okay, so LADA was in the Russian sector. And of course, there's a lot of collaboration. The space research is one area where we see how different countries, they all come together, forgetting whatever issues we have here on Earth. So there's a lot of collaboration and they work together, So LADA is much smaller compared to other space plant growth systems. It's like about just 1 cubic foot in volume, okay? So they're growing various crops. They're trying various crops like dwarf wheat, leafy greens, peas. Recently, I think they figured out how to grow peas and tiny tomatoes, the cherry tomatoes, I guess. So they use fluorescent lamps to provide the light for photosynthesis. If you remember, the APH uses LED lighting, and LADA uses fluorescent lamp. They have a root module system for water delivery, and it directly takes in nutrients as well as water. It's actually been operational since 2002. So it's not completely autonomous, unlike APH, but it requires minimal crew time. Now imagine if we can figure out a way to grow this to scale. If we have a Mars colony or a lunar colony, where we can grow enough to sustain 10 people. Now I have to say, I've been a farmer for 12 years. To grow food traditionally on soil, if you have 1 acre, it'll provide, I would say, 80% of the food they need for about 4 people. Okay, obviously that's not how we grow food, or we don't grow everything we need in the land that we have. Imagine that's how people used to live. We trade, right? We export, we import. But supposing in a Mars colony, there's only like 10 people or 20 people, and they have to grow everything that they need. If we grow it the way we grow in our farms here, the area that you would need would be enormous. Hydroponics shrinks that. Like, I would say you would need just like maybe 1/10 of the space, even less of the water. So hydroponics is a game changer, right? So imagine if we have a space colony or a Mars colony or a lunar city, and the number of people there is like 20 people. And you should be able to grow everything, most of what you need, to be sustainable. Now, if we can grow food like in any of these plant growth systems, that would be a success. And if we can do the same thing on Earth, again, that would be a success because we are conserving water, we're conserving space, we are reducing, labor, time, we are automating the process, we're getting a lot of data, and we are also possibly we are reducing the footprint of the calories that we consume because it can all be grown locally. Now it's a big ask, and we don't have to do that because we have supply chains. Today's agriculture, today's food, it is possible because of supply chains. So it's a different ball game because right now we have the resources to do that. But these experiments are important. They've taught us a lot of things, like your tractors, the GPS that you use, the self-driving tractors we have, hydroponic system, aquaponic systems. All of this, in some way, it can go back to space research or the ideas that come from space research. So anyway, going back to LADA. So it's much smaller. They use fluorescent light. It's not fully autonomous, but it is really important. It's been operational for a very long time. And they were one of the first people. LADA Greenhouse research was one of the first to figure out what happens. Now, anybody who makes advances in space ag research are standing on the shoulders of these giants. It's only because of their experimentation, they know where they failed, where they succeeded, so that after them, the researchers can avoid certain pitfalls, etc. So collaboration is a beautiful thing, So we are going to do the deep dive on LADA. I've spoken about other things, but I think it's important. The deep dive, we will focus on the LADA greenhouse. And of course, you can read all about it, jelliclesfarm.com under Mushrooms on Mars. So on that note, I'm going to stop talking now.
Hey there, fellow space enthusiasts. Ever thought about growing your own food in space? That's what we're diving into today, space agriculture. And no, not like your friend said, basil plant on a windowsill.
Right.
We're talking about high-tech farms orbiting our planet right now.
Wow.
Imagine you're an astronaut on the ISS. You're gazing out at Earth, surrounded by cutting-edge tech, when you spot a garden.
Really?
A patch of green, thriving in zero-G. Now you might be thinking, why all the fuss about space gardens? Well, on those long-duration missions like sending humans to Mars,
Right.
packing enough freeze-dried ice cream just won't cut it.
Yeah.
Astronauts need fresh food for their health and a little taste of home.
Makes sense.
That's where space agriculture comes in. Specifically, a system called LADA that we're unpacking today. You might have heard of NASA's space gardens like Veggie and APH, but LADA, developed through international collaboration, is like their compact, efficient cousin with some serious tricks up its sleeve.
And what's remarkable is it's not just about keeping astronauts fed. It's a scientific powerhouse, helping us understand how plants act differently in microgravity.
Oh, okay.
This is key to figuring out how to create, self-sustaining space habitats in the future.
So, plant biology in space, what makes it so different from growing things back here?
Well, picture this. In space, there's no up or down.
Right.
Gravity doesn't tell things how to grow.
Yeah.
Water clumps together, floats around, instead of, nicely sinking into soil. Roots grow in every direction because there's no down to guide them. LADA helps us study these bizarre conditions to create environments where plants can actually thrive in space.
So it's like giving scientists a front row seat to plant biology in a whole new light.
Exactly. And the knowledge, it's not just for astronauts. Imagine what it could mean for agriculture on Earth, especially in areas facing drought or limited farmland.
That's a great point. So how does this space garden actually work? What makes LADA so ingenious?
Well, LADA uses a modular design. Think of it like space Legos.
Okay.
Scientists can swap out different parts for different experiments. This allows for incredible flexibility.
I love that. A miniature, customizable lab in space. And speaking of seeing things up close, I hear LADA has a transparent growth chamber. Must be something to see your dinner floating in midair.
It's not just for show. The transparent chamber lets scientists constantly monitor plant growth, spot any differences from how they grow on Earth. Plus, a little green goes a long way in a metal box millions of miles away, right? I'm sure it's comforting for the astronauts.
It's like bringing a touch of Earth to the final frontier. And speaking of Earth, let's talk dirt, or rather the lack of it. LADA uses hydroponics, right?
That's right. Hydroponics means no soil. Plants grow in a nutrient-rich water solution.
Yeah.
Far more efficient and takes up way less space.
Right.
Crucial when you're dealing with the limits of space travel.
That makes a lot of sense. Soil's heavy, bulky, not exactly ideal for launching into orbit. But I have to ask, how do you even water plants in microgravity? Wouldn't it just float away?
Exactly. It's not as simple as, watering your houseplants.
Right.
In space, water behaves very differently. That's where LADA's ingenious wicking system comes in.
Oh, wicking system. Tell me more. That sounds intriguing.
It uses a special material that draws water up from a reservoir and delivers it right to the roots using capillary action. Think of it like a high-tech sponge, making sure the plants get a constant controlled supply of water without, drowning or drying out.
No, that is clever. It's amazing how they've thought of everything, even designing around the challenges of zero-G. But what about sunlight? We can't exactly ship massive grow lights up to the ISS.
You're right. No disco balls for our space plants. LADA has its own sunshine. They provide the exact wavelengths needed for photosynthesis. It's like bringing the sun to the plants, even in deep space.
So smart. It sounds like they've thought of every little detail. What else does this incredible system do to help these space crops thrive?
Well, just like us, plants need to breathe.
Right, of course.
LADA has a ventilation system that circulates the air, delivering carbon dioxide for photosynthesis and oxygen for the plants.
Right. It's basically its own little life support system just for the plants. But now let's talk about everyone's favorite part, the food. What kinds of cosmic cuisine are they cultivating in this space garden?
Now we're getting to the good stuff. One of the earliest success stories for LADA was growing peas.
Okay.
Fast-growing, nutritious, a crowd pleaser.
Space peas sound pretty good.
Yeah.
What else is on the menu? Don't tell me they've managed to bake bread in space, too.
You'd be surprised. They've actually grown wheat in LADA.
What?
This is huge for creating more complex food for astronauts. Imagine a fresh slice of bread made from space-grown wheat.
Wow.
Could totally change long-duration missions.
Space bread. That is remarkable. Now I'm really curious, what else have they managed to grow up there?
Well, they've got fresh lettuce for salads, which are a welcome change from freeze-dried meals and provide those essential vitamins that are sometimes missing in prepackaged food.
Fresh salad in space. I bet the astronauts are over the moon about that. Anything else?
Well, this one is still experimental, but they've managed to grow barley.
Barley. Interesting. Is that just for a heartier grain, or is there something else that makes it special for space travel?
Well, and this is just between us. It could potentially be used for space beer one day.
Space beer. Now that's something I'd like to try. What are the chances of getting a cold one on a future Mars mission?
Huh? It's definitely a fun thing to think about.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've got peas, wheat, lettuce, and barley, all thriving in this compact little space garden. What else is on the menu?
They've also had success with Mizuna, a type of Japanese mustard green.
Okay.
It's another fast-growing, nutritious leafy green. Adds a bit of variety to the space menu.
So we've got our greens. What's next? Are they working on any other crops for LAD?
They're constantly experimenting. But beyond growing food, LADA is an incredible platform for groundbreaking scientific discoveries. And that's what we'll delve into next.
Okay, groundbreaking science. Hit me with LADA's greatest hits in plant research.
Well, for starters, it's helping us understand how microgravity affects plant growth. On Earth, roots grow down, shoots grow up. Gravity keeps things simple.
Right.
But in space, whole different story.
Right. There's no real up or down. So how do plants even know which way to grow?
Exactly. And that's one of the big questions LAD is helping us answer. How do plants adapt to this lack of pull? Do roots grow in a spiral? Do shoots just float around?
Wow.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. Something as simple as a plant growing differently leads to these huge discoveries. What other space mysteries is LADA helping solve?
Well, we talked about how tricky water and nutrients are in microgravity.
Right.
LADA lets us experiment with different methods, to find that perfect recipe for plant growth in space.
So every lettuce leaf, every space pea, it's all valuable data for the future of space farming.
Precisely. Each experiment gets us closer to a truly self-sustaining food system in space.
This is so cool. It's like we're getting a sneak peek at the future of space exploration, and it's surprisingly delicious. But I'm guessing space farming isn't without its challenges.
You're absolutely right. There are definitely hurdles to overcome, but every challenge is an opportunity for innovation.
Okay, I like that attitude. What are some of the biggest challenges facing the future of space farming?
Well, one of the biggest is scaling things up.
Okay.
LAD is great for research, supplementing diets.
Right.
But to feed a large crew on a long mission, say, to Mars, we'd need much larger, more efficient systems.
So like turning a backyard garden into a massive farm, but in space?
Exactly. And then there's energy consumption.
Right.
Growing plants takes light, temperature control, ventilation, all using up energy.
Especially on a place like Mars, where resources are limited.
Exactly. Making space farming more energy efficient, especially further from the sun, is crucial.
A fascinating challenge for engineers. What else makes space farming tricky?
Well, we've touched on it, but microgravity throws a wrench into even simple things, like watering.
Right.
We've got LADA's wicking system, but figuring that out for larger systems is still a major focus.
It really highlights how interdisciplinary this is. You need biologists, engineers.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating intersection. You need biologists, engineers, even psychologists to study the impact of fresh food on astronauts during long missions.
A whole new frontier of scientific collaboration.
Precisely. And speaking of collaboration, one of the most exciting things about LADA is that it's a partnership between scientists from different countries.
Oh, wow.
It shows how space exploration can go beyond borders. We're all on Team Human, right?
I love that. It's a good reminder that even with challenges like space farming, cooperation is key.
It really is. And the knowledge from LADA, it's not just for astronauts. It could revolutionize agriculture here on Earth, too.
Wait, really? How could space farming help us grow food here?
Think about it. When you're growing food in the extreme environment of space, you have to be incredibly efficient with resources, like water, fertilizer.
Makes sense. Every drop counts when you're millions of miles from Earth.
Exactly. And those lessons learned in space, they could be huge for sustainable farming here on Earth, especially with climate change, a growing population.
So space farming could tackle food security issues, reduce the environmental impact of agriculture.
Exactly. By pushing the boundaries in space, we might just find solutions to some of the biggest challenges facing our planet.
That's incredible. A cosmic feedback loop of innovation. Okay, so we've got the science, the challenges, the incredible potential of space farming. But before we wrap up, what's next for LADA? What does the future hold for this little space garden?
That's a great question. LADA is still going strong on the ISS, providing data and fresh food for astronauts. And, maybe even more exciting, the knowledge from LADA is already being used to design even more advanced space farming systems for future missions.
So LADA is like the trailblazer, paving the way for even bigger, bolder space gardens.
Precisely. As we venture further to the Moon, Mars, and beyond, what we've learned from LAD will be invaluable.
It really makes you think. So something as simple as growing a pea plant in space could hold the key to humanity's future among the stars. It really does. Like, it really makes you think differently about space exploration, right? It's not just about planting a flag anymore. It's about like building a future where we can actually live beyond Earth.
Yeah. It's a total change in how we see it. And it makes you realize that every bit of food, every salad, every slice of bread,
right,
every, sip of space beer, hopefully.
Right.
It all takes a huge effort. Science, engineering, people working together from all over.
It's incredible how much goes into it, yeah.
Absolutely. And it shows why LADA is so much more than, just a garden.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of what humans can do.
Yeah.
Our need to explore.
Right.
To push for what's
I love that. It sounds like LADA and all the research is really going to change things, not just for space, but our lives back here too.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting time to be, following all this.
It is. It is. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive today into space farming and this incredible LADA greenhouse. But before we sign off, one last thing to think about. If you could design your own space garden, what would you grow? What what delicious discoveries are waiting for us out there? Keep those questions simmering, and until next time, keep exploring.
We finished 4 different plant growth systems, the Veggie and the APH on the ISS by NASA, and the LADA Greenhouse system in the Russian sector of the ISS. And of course, we spoke about the BPS, which is the predecessor for developing APH, which is the automated plant habitat. BPS was the biomass production system. It's not used anymore, but APH owes a lot to the BPS. Oh, I love all these alphabet soup. Okay. So, and then we spoke about LADA. So right now, we have one more to discuss. That'll be the next episode. It is the bioculture system on the ISS. It's not about full plants. We are talking about cellular biology and tissue culture and how it acts in microgravity. This is really important, okay, because they're not growing full plants. But the main purpose is to understand the biological processes at a cellular level. So when a plant grows, there's a lot happening. What we are seeing is we see the seed, then it becomes a sapling, and then it becomes a small plant, then it becomes bigger, and then we see it flower, fruit, and then give out seeds. We are seeing it from the outside. There is a whole world inside the plant. There are various processes that happen at a cellular level, at a molecular level. And that is what we study in the bioculture system. And this is important, because now when we look at the biological processes at a cellular level, we're looking at things like gene expression, cell growth, tissue development, immune response. Now, this is not just for plants, okay? So the bioculture system is pretty significant because we understand the effects of microgravity on cellular biology. With the APH and Veggie, we're looking at how microgravity is affecting plant growth. And we are recording everything that is happening, right? It's observation and we are recording. But in the bioculture system, we're going deep. We're understanding why things happen the way it does when we grow in microgravity at a cellular level. So this is very crucial, okay? It's not just for plants. It's for pharmaceutical and medical research, for environmental monitoring, to understand how we need to tailor and maintain biological life support on the ISS and maybe even on Earth. So that would be the next episode, the 9th episode. And then we are going to talk about Melissa, which is the ESA plant growth system, but it is actually the most sophisticated and most well developed. And then we will talk about mushrooms, because we have to understand what's actually going on the ISS, because ISS right now is the only place where they're conducting the experiments. And we will get to the mushrooms after this. Okay, so on that note, I am closing this for now and see you all soon.